We've been filling up that side this week.
Yeah. Overflow audience.
Okay, it should be starting.
Won't you listen to reason? Will you open your eyes? It's a wonder what you'll find with an open mind. You may be surprised. Yeah, gotta get away from this illusion for the sake of the world. This delusion has gotta go. Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Atheist Experience. I'm your host, Russell Glasser, and with me today is Jeff D.
Hi, Russell. Hi, everybody.
Today is Sunday, August 12th. We are a live call-in public access television show based in Austin, Texas, dedicated to promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. We are also available through live streaming video at ustream.tv. The official Atheist Experience website is www.atheist-experience.com, and you can provide feedback by commenting on the official show blog at freethoughtblogs.com/axp, or email us at tv@atheist-community.org. I have a small announcement. I don't know if this was mentioned last week, but the Atheist Experience YouTube channel, which used to be a fan channel, has been taken over by us.
Our first step in world conquest.
Yes. Also, for the time being, comments have been disabled on new videos, but they are expected to have links to open threads on the show so that people can comment there. If you enjoy this show, then please use the Google machine to find our related podcasts, The Non-Prophets and Godless Bitches. You can find those actually at the Atheist Experience website. And dinner tonight, I'll have to repeat this several times because we're not going to El Arroyo. We're testing out some new locations, and dinner tonight is going to be at the Waterloo Ice House. The address is right there on your screen. It's 1106 West 38th Street. And that's it for the announcements. How's it going today, Jeff?
Good. It's a good day today. Yesterday was Robert Ingersoll's birthday.
All right.
Robert Ingersoll was a extremely well-known and popular agnostic lecturer in late 1800s, and you can find articles about him all over the internet. In fact, I celebrated his birthday yesterday by listening to some YouTube videos where people have done readings of some of his lectures. There's like 1 hour, 2 hour lectures by him on various subjects related to non-belief. And yeah, he was a famous guy.
Cool. I have a quote from him right here.
You do?
The inspiration of the Bible depends upon the ignorance of the gentleman who reads it.
Sounds like Ingersoll.
Yep, that is definitely Ingersoll.
Colonel Robert Ingersoll.
Yeah. You know what? I failed to load up the call screening page before the show, so I'm just going to spin the roulette wheel right now and take line 1.
Awesome.
Hello, who's on the line?
Hello.
Hello.
It's me, Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
Hello, Nicole.
Hi, Russell.
How are
Hi,
you?
Jeff. How's it going?
Fine.
Good.
This
up?
is my first time calling. I've been a long time watcher. You guys are just amazing.
Thanks. So are you.
I'm good. Yeah. So today I have a question about like, you know how in the Bible, prior to the global flood, people have been living for like about 1,000 years. Like, according to the Bible, Methuselah lived to be about 969 years old. So, like, what do you guys think about that? Because I kind of think it's like nonsense.
That didn't happen. That is just a story.
It's just a myth.
Right.
Story. I just kind of find it to be weird. Like, even when I was a believer, I was like, how could that have happened? Because, like, wouldn't his body have shut down completely? He had to have died.
There's a lot of historical evidence that shows in the earliest part of recorded history, people did not live terribly long. And there's paleontological evidence of our ancient ancestors that they lived even less long than that. I mean, if you were 25 years old, you were an old man.
Yeah.
There was there was kind of a famous bit in The Simpsons once where like fans of a show were pestering the creators about continuity errors, and then the star of the show said, well, the answer to that and all your other questions is a wizard did it. There's a similar answer to all the problems with the Bible, which is that God did it and God is magic. There's more roundabout excuses, like, for instance, before the fall, people wouldn't have died at all, and then after Eve ate the apple and doomed the human race, then the lifespan started getting shorter and shorter. So all the things that you think are problems with living forever today just weren't problems back then, which has its own issues, but, God is magic.
Yeah.
God is also not real, so, I mean, it doesn't matter what they say.
Right. I just wanted to know that, and I just wanted to know what you guys think, and I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, it couldn't have happened, but, as a
It
person, I was
could,
like,
but there's
well,
no good reason to think that it did.
Exactly.
right, I mean, because as a person, I was taught not to question God or doubt, because I would be sinning, and I was like, taboo and all that kind of crap, and I'm like, well, geez.
Okay. Well, thanks for your call, Nicole.
Guys.
Thanks for calling.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Next we have Tom in Richland, Washington. Tom,
Hey
are you
there.
there? Hey.
How you guys doing?
Fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I thought it was going to be Matt and Jeff, but I'm happy to talk to Russell as well.
Happy to talk to you. Thanks.
Okay, cool. Basically, I wouldn't say question, it's more of an observation, is that the take that you folks have on agnosticism is that agnosticism is a matter of knowledge, whereas atheism is one of belief. And I kind of take issue with that, as well as with Professor Dawkins' take that agnosticism is impoverished, or poverty of agnosticism. I've heard you folks say several times that if there were evidence of a God, you would believe immediately, and my feeling is that
I wouldn't say immediately. It would take some convincing.
Well, my feeling is that there cannot be any such evidence, and therefore it's sort
Can
of
you
unfair
prove
to say, bring me such evidence and I'll believe. It's like, well, already that can't be. If you have evidence, much better explanation is that it's simply something that's natural as opposed to supernatural. That
I hate to play the theist caller right
that.
now. I hate to play the theist caller right now, but can you prove that there's no God?
I don't think that we have well enough defined what God is. I think that nobody's ever come close.
I
The
think
closest anyone's ever come would have to be like the ontological argument, in which that which is the greatest that can ever be conceived of is that which we call God. They then go on to say things, silly things like existence is better than non-existence, and therefore God exists. But I would point out that a God that both exists and non-exists, even if you can't wrap your mind around that, can do anything that either one of the first two can do and more.
Yeah, we've got all that on the Iron Chariots article for the ontological argument. But
Okay. So there's that.
well, the words are subject to definitions, right? And there can be multiple definitions for words. The reason why most of us are happy with the distinction between atheism and agnosticism, where agnosticism is a statement about knowledge and atheism is a statement about belief, is that it makes conversations about the issues clearer. It makes a clear distinction about relevant things. I'm certain that if you look in various places, you can find definitions that are different. We find those other definitions less helpful.
Well, yes, but if you're talking, okay, semantically, you're entirely correct. But if you're trying to understand this from an epistemological sense as to what can actually be or what is reasonable to believe, I kind of have to jump to Gödel's incompleteness theorem. Basically, any logical system that is both cannot be both complete and consistent. Right. And I think that a great deal of the arguments that people use to hide behind, yes, God exists, but you can't understand it, have to do with constructing things that simply don't fit into our system.
And now, how is that a problem? But how is that a problem for our definition of the word agnosticism?
Well, I don't want to take the issue too much with your definition. As I say, I was somewhat offended by Professor Dawkins' take that it was impoverished, and he actually got it right in the God Delusion at first. And then
what exactly did he say was impoverished? What is the precise thing that he was referring to?
Well, crap, I can look it up if you'd like.
I'm not sure that
he had several paragraphs on the...
I mean, we're not going to, like, knee-jerk defend every single thing that Dawkins says, but...
No, I don't expect you to. I'm trying to get at something a little more basic.
And, of course, it depends on what definition he was using when he said agnostic, I mean, I don't know that he adheres to the same definitions we do. If he was speaking just of people who latch on to the word agnostic because they use it as cover, because what they actually are is non-believers, but they find they can get along better in society if they only go as publicly as far as agnostic, right? Maybe he was talking about that kind of definition of agnostic, and if that's what he meant, I kind of agree with him.
No, well, that's a little insulting, but okay. Basically...
are there no people? Do you think there's nobody who uses the term agnostic as cover? When they, in fact, are really, they don't believe, they just don't want to come all the way out and say so?
Well, as I say, I'm sure that there are, but
I mean,
he kind of wrote in a throwaway comment saying that in his 1 to 7 scale of belief to non-belief, he will toss off that he supposes that agnostics would refuse to even be put on that scale, and that's exactly right. But then he goes on to complain about people that believe in 50-50 belief.
Well, there are seriously a lot of people. I mean, there are a lot of people who will show up in a forum regardless of what the topic is and say, personally, I think that fundamentalist atheism is just as obnoxious as fundamentalist Christianity, and you're both opposite sides of the same coin.
Yeah,
which is bullshit. But those are the kinds of people. But those are the kinds of people who would have their. Those are the kinds of people who would have their own usage of the word agnostic, which means strictly neutral. And I think that's the kind of nonsense that Richard Dawkins was criticizing when he was talking about agnosticism in general. I mean, not in general, but in that particular situation, that's pretty common.
It may be pretty common, but again, it's more a matter of the theist would say there is a God, and I believe to whatever degree. The atheist would say, well, I don't believe that there is one, or I lack that belief. And I think the agnostic, in my understanding of it, would simply be, don't waste my time. That's a silly question. That gets back to some of the...
Well, at minimum, that's pretty intellectually incurious.
Noma and other aspects. I think Gould got it exactly right, and he touched upon this, or at least alluded to it, in his book, The Mismeasure of Man. He's talking about why are we arguing about who's measurably more intelligent than anybody else when we haven't yet come up with what we really mean by intelligence. Well, it's the same sort of thing. Why are we arguing about whether you believe or don't believe in a God when you really haven't come up with a decent, workable, I hate to use the word scientific, but there it is, definition for what you mean by that?
Because when theists hear someone say, why are we even talking about God? You haven't given us a clear definition of it. They say, yes, we have, and then the next response is, well, what is it? And then we're off to the races. It's not like it's unrealistic, I think, in our society today to think that we're going to set aside the discussion of God claims and religion on the grounds that there's not a clear definition. They think there is. And so they keep saying that there is, and at some point you got to give them their shot, and then we're talking about whether their definition is any good or not. It's just not reasonable to think it's going to go away.
Perhaps not. And I do appreciate what you guys are doing in terms of combating that sort of silliness, but. Let me give you an example of something that happened to me. Some folks come to my door a little while back, knock on the door, and wanted to explain to me about the nature of God, and started off by saying, are you in fact a believer of any sort? And I said, I'm Orthodox agnostic. And said, well, at least you have faith in something. And I was a little taken aback by that. I don't think you understood what I just told you. Goodbye. But I'm not sure I'm really getting through what I mean by this. But I think that the question...
Tom, I think you should try again another time.
Perhaps
can you call us back?
Since I'm not putting this forward in a particularly coherent fashion just by speaking up ahead.
Yeah. All right. I would just advise you not to get too personally bent out of shape by things other people say about agnostics unless you're absolutely certain what they mean by that, because there are a lot of different definitions of that floating around.
Right.
Yeah.
But thanks for your call.
Sorry. Derek in Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
I have actually a definition of an agnostic for you.
I'm sure you do.
Yes.
So do we all.
An agnostic is an atheist with a wife and 2 kids. Yeah. Anyway.
What?
He's taking a swipe at agnostics.
Okay.
Right there.
So, we have a guy who keeps coming to our local free thought groups. You guys on the show have said many, many times that, an atheist is somebody who doesn't believe in a God, and it doesn't really matter what else they believe in. And that's definitely true, because while this guy doesn't believe in a God, he believes in everything else. And we recently just had a big blow up on the meetup group for our local free thought group, because he's a true believer in UFOs. He believes in Uri Geller. He believes in Bigfoot. He has claimed that James Randi is part of a government conspiracy to suppress the truth about Uri Geller's ideas. And he's just made himself intolerable. And we really don't know how to really get him to either... it's like trying to argue with anybody else who's a true believer. You can't get them to be open-minded and to actually be skeptical. So, but we also can't really just say, dude, stop it. Nobody wants to hear it. Stop coming around. We don't even want you. He doesn't have any sympathetic voices in the group, but he just keeps coming. And most of the time, people just, tolerate his presence because he doesn't go off on it every time, but every so often it just gets irritating and embarrassing.
It's kind of funny you should mention that, because just earlier today I ran across a 2003 article that I thought was really interesting. It's called 5 Geek Social Fallacies.
I know it.
What? Oh, you've heard of it?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's interesting to atheists because atheists seem to have sort of a large geek intersection. And number 1, I'm sure you're aware, is ostracizers are evil, which means that if you hound this guy out of the group, then you're just an evil clique, and you might as well be the football team, dunking the nerd's head in the toilet. A lot of groups. I mean, the ACA has run into this problem before also, where there were people who, they're atheists, but they just don't get along with people. And it's difficult and uncomfortable to deal with those people. I mean, certainly one step is to just try to freeze them out. And, I mean, people who don't want to talk to them, just don't talk to them. But if this guy is aggressive and keeps getting in people's faces, then you might want to consider like ground rules for these kinds of meetings that specifically deal with whatever kind of behavior this guy is exhibiting without necessarily targeting his specific beliefs. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts, Jeff?
Boy, I don't know of perfect answers to any of this. I'm reminded of something which recently happened online. There was some article posted somewhere where a guy took it upon himself to list the 5 worst atheists, and this was an atheist.
Oh, yeah.
So he took a swipe at Sam Harris because he doesn't like Sam Harris's views on racial profiling, and he took a swipe at Penn Jillette because he doesn't like libertarianism. And for good measure, he threw S.E. Cupp into the mix,
because
which
nobody likes
any
S.E. Cupp.
atheist that spends 5 seconds listening to her realizes she's just a right-wing shill. And
I don't think he's an atheist personally. I think she's
yeah.
okay, but let's not get sidetracked on that.
Right.
The point is, this guy made himself a list of bad atheists, and immediately there was a feeding frenzy, right? There were the people that the atheists who are libertarians outraged that this guy is basically calling Penn Jillette a bad atheist because he's a libertarian, and people who feel that though many of Sam Harris's conclusions are distasteful, at least he appears to be trying, not necessarily succeeding, but trying to look at these issues rationally, and going, well, this is all a kind of unwise, attack on our fellow atheists, and why is this going on? I just think you shouldn't go there. But the fact is, there are people like S.E. Cupp, and who you would not want to have at your local atheist meeting, I think, and or other people who, for other reasons, are just not going to fit in. And at some point, you got to go, wow, yeah, we probably want to not be turning on one another, like pod people, rejecting the outsiders as much as we can possibly manage, but sometimes you just can't manage it, right? And it's a question of where you draw that line.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly would never
tough.
want to advocate for solidarity at all costs. And I mean, certainly this
Not
guy,
at all costs.
Yeah, no. But I mean, this guy, it's possible that if everybody just sort of refuses to engage him in conversation, then eventually he'll get bored and go away, but I wouldn't count on that. And so the real question to me is still whether he's actually doing things which are sort of harassing people, that you could actually call him out on and have grounds for getting rid of him that aren't tied to his
Unfortunately
specific
not.
beliefs.
He tends to be unfailingly polite. He's just irritating because of the content of his conversations.
Yeah, well, I mean,
he's
it's
never
a tough
been
situation.
aggressive. But he has, I think, gotten some people to not come back because they don't like, constantly being.
There's a line.
got a problem.
Browbeat.
There's a line you can legitimately, I think, as a group, you can say, look, we don't want to ostracize people, but if this one person is driving others away from your group, then that cannot be tolerated. I think that's perfectly legitimate. As much as it's unfortunate you'd ever want to be driven to that extremity, sometimes you might have to.
Right.
Well, give it a shot. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Good luck.
I mean, it's a complex interpersonal social issue, and that's kind of beyond the pay grade of this show sometimes. But take it as a couple of guys giving their opinions.
And just to clarify my comments on that issue with the 5 worst atheist article, I mean, I'm not a libertarian. I think libertarianism is pretty bad, but I would never put Penn Jillette, one of the nicest, best-spoken atheists out there in the public eye, one of the best examples of like good behavior, if not necessarily good politics. Never put him on a list. I wouldn't make a list like that in the first place. I think the whole activity is a bad idea. I think if we engage people on issues and not on personalities, then we're headed in the right direction.
Right. Penn Jillette is super cool whenever he's agreeing with me.
That's about right.
Yeah.
No, he's super cool all the time. Some super cool people also have some ideas that are mistaken. It can happen. Nobody's perfect.
If anybody is watching live in Austin and has tuned in late, I'm going to be reminding people a couple of times that we are moving away from El Arroyo. We're trying out some new places, and this week and possibly for a couple more weeks, we're going to be going to Waterloo Ice House on 1106 West 38th Street. So come on over for food and drinks or whatever after the show. We should get there at around 6 or a little earlier. And now we're going to go to Jonathan in Arizona.
Hello.
Hi, Jonathan.
Hello.
I just want to say I appreciate the time you guys are taking to speak with me, both Jeff and Russell.
Thanks.
I wanted to talk about, I had watched maybe 3 or 4 full episodes of you guys' show and many, 10, 15-minute clips. And among some of these clips that I watched, the Big Bang Theory came into conversation. And just to kind of let you guys know, I study apologetics, Christian apologetics.
Okay.
So I'm sure you guys have heard of the Kalam cosmological argument.
Yep.
Okay. I guess first, I wanted to get your opinion on what you guys believe were the specifics of, the origin of the universe.
What do we believe?
Well, yeah, I'm sorry.
You mean, what do we do? Are you asking us what we think is the case?
Well, what I mean is for example, Lawrence Krauss is a big advocate of, the universe originating from absolutely nothing. And then there's other cosmologists and scientists who believe that there was an infinitesimal speck of super hot, super dense matter that finally got hot enough and exploded the universe into existence. Do you agree with one of those two theories?
Those are, by the way, not necessarily two different groups. Lawrence Krauss thinks that first super hot, infinitesimally small speck of matter came from nothing. It's that those are not necessarily two different groups.
Okay, so does that mean that at one point there was nothing, but then that speck of matter came and then exploded?
Have you listened to his lecture at all?
Right.
No, actually, I have an interview that I'm going to be doing with Krauss here in probably about 4 to 6 weeks.
There's your problem. What he means by nothing is what is now understood to be the nature of nothing in the universe, which is that there are particles appearing and disappearing all the time. I'm not a scientist. Don't expect a fully detailed version of it from me, but if you listen to one of his lectures, which are freely available on YouTube, right, A Universe from Nothing, you will hear him explain what he means by nothing. And that'll save you from going down this wrong alley of thinking that, aha, there's an opening where you can stick God.
Okay, so even with the infinitesimal speck of super dense matter, blowing the universe, or exploding the universe into existence, this is the more prominent belief through science and cosmology?
It's the prevailing theory. Sure.
Okay. Now, if that's the case, if the universe exploded into being from an infinitesimal speck of matter, even something had to cause that to happen, as far as the law of cause and effect, right?
Dude, call's over. You need to find out what Lawrence Krauss is actually saying and what he actually means before you start, thinking that, aha, I'm going to apply my apologetics to this and win. No, you're not. Not when you don't know what you're talking about. And we are not the right people to ask. Go and find out what Lawrence Krauss is actually saying. Okay? Is he still on the line?
No, you said call's over, so
okay.
I believed you. But
okay, fair enough.
I would like to just say that the Kalam cosmological argument I actually feel kind of bad saying this with him gone now, but the Kalam cosmological argument finally gets around to saying that if we can't come up with any other explanation, then it must be a God who did not begin to exist, so they create a special category for him. And then they say, and things in this special category aren't subject to the rule that they have to be caused. So we know that God must be the thing that didn't begin to exist and doesn't need a cause, which is a total non sequitur.
I agree, though, that things that don't ever begin to exist
Right.
don't need a cause. I agree that that is the case.
Sure.
The question is, are there any such things?
Right.
Well, no, as far as we know.
Kevin in Ontario.
Hello, Jeff and Russell. How are you gentlemen doing today?
Fine. How are you?
Good, good. It's been a while since I got through on the phone lines. I have an interesting question for you guys today.
We'll be
My
the
question
judge of
is,
that.
Don't you guys think it's unwise to gamble with finding out if hell is real the hard way or not when the Bible has such an excellent track record of being accurate, correct, and reliable?
Shoot, I never heard that one before. I think I'm converting.
Dude, you're not serious, right?
Well,
you don't have that quite the right tone of
all the
voice.
prophecies that have been fulfilled. There's not enough time for me to lay them all out on one phone call.
Are you serious?
But,
At
there's
least
books written on all
one.
the archaeological.
You're not just going to say, oh, the Bible's right about everything, but I don't have time to say anything it's right about.
Kevin, are you in fact serious?
Am I serious?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And not only that, I can see all the order and design in the world that obviously required a orderer/designer.
Right.
It's really easy to see that,
Wait,
to be honest.
so do you want to talk about the argument from design, or do you want to talk about Pascal's wager? Because, I mean, you're not going to throw just, a dozen apologetic standard arguments at the wall and see what sticks. Pick one.
Well, you're exactly right. There's so many, and I really think the odds
Yeah,
are
and they
against
all
you guys
suck,
in
but
such
we
a
have to
huge way.
deal with them one at a time.
Yeah, there's Pascal. And I've heard your argument, Russell, about
Pick one.
the second law of thermodynamics.
Evan,
you can
pick
say what you say,
two.
but I see things deteriorate.
No.
Which
No matter
one?
what I say, I
Final
see
warning.
things going down towards chaos.
3,
And if
2,
you were
1.
to take a bunch of
Dude.
Kevin is so pleased that they invented the telephone.
Yes. James in West Virginia.
Hi, how you doing?
Fine.
Awesome. If Matt couldn't be here today, just want to say it's awesome that you, Russell. And Jeff,
Thanks.
you're my personal hero. Want to make this quick and short because I don't want to take too much of your time up. But basically the first caller you got was talking about living 900 years and how that couldn't be possible. If you do a little search in science, you'll find out that the human brain is basically designed to, as it gets older, get better at picking up information. I mean, right now, let's say I don't know what you guys' ages are. Let's say you're both in your 40s. Think when you were kids, summer lasted forever. And now it's like summer's gone, like that, gone. Imagine if you were 500 years old. Summer would be just like maybe a day or two. Then you get to 900 and you're just sitting in a chair, staring at a wall, and everything you see and every person interaction to you is just this blur of motion and vision, and you can't see anything. So right there, that proves the human brain's not even designed to live 900 years.
Yeah,
and if you take a look at anthropology, you'll
James,
also see,
James,
I don't know,
James.
35-year lifespan.
Hold it.
Go ahead.
No,
Oh, me?
you.
Obviously, these hypothetical 900-year-old people would have somewhat different brains than we have now in order for them to function that way, right? I mean, you can always make up more bullshit to cover other bullshit. That is the easiest thing in the world.
Right, and don't forget, God is magic.
Right.
Yes, he is.
So,
God is magic.
I don't think you can't
let's say
catch
I
him
have a whole
that
deck of
way.
magic cards, and I got 3 counterspells on God's ass.
Okay.
Well, God's going to tap a black lotus or something.
Yeah,
I don't
speaking
really
as a
play
tran-
magic.
Speaking as a transhumanist, I honestly think that it's physically possible to have a brain that could function just fine after running for 900 years, but we don't have them now.
No, we don't. And, I mean, yeah, you're right. We could totally change our brain chemistry and figure out how to make that work. But
And so could
right now
an
we have
invisible
no idea.
magic man in the sky. See, that's the thing.
Well, that's all I really wanted to say. Thanks for letting me on the show. I'll try to call again. Jeff, keep telling people to go to hell for telling you to go to hell. And Russ, keep making me laugh.
Okay, I'll work on it.
Is that what I do?
Bye.
I don't think I do that.
It's a narrative.
Yeah, I get it.
You know. Scott in Vancouver. Are you there?
Yeah. Hi, Russell and Jeff.
Hi.
In the Four Horsemen DVD, Dan Dennett asks the other folks there, might there be some information or knowledge that we might not want to know, or something along those lines? And a similar, in a similar form, I want to ask, when it comes to, you know, combating theism, might there be some tactics that we might not want to employ, such as specifically my concern is about the taxation of churches, because like right now, perhaps there's some religious leaders or pastors who don't want to talk about politics because they know as a church or, you know, as a pastor, you know, they're not supposed to, or they'll get taxed. And I guess I want to ask you guys for your thoughts. Do you think there's any dangers there? And you know, if we did tax churches, might they then see no restraint or any inhibitants to speaking about politics in their churches?
It's not clear to me that they have any restraint now.
Not in the U.S. anyway.
Yeah.
Right now, there's a really serious problem with churches engaging in political speech.
Yeah, I mean, as a matter of fact, I've recently read about several pastors who have, like, sort of been in open defiance and said, like, you know, well, here's who I think you should vote for, and if the IRS wants to come and get me, they can try.
Yeah.
And the IRS isn't really trying, and the thing is that not enforcing a law is just as bad as not having the law in the first place, you know?
Right.
So I mean, it might be better to just go after all, you know, just let churches be taxed equally the same as all businesses are, rather than trying to decide things based on their behavior, because that's kind of fuzzy. We already know that they're deeply involved in politics anyway. And there was this study that was recently done by a couple of University of Tampa, by a professor and some grad students, where they worked out that not taxing churches is costing like adding $71 billion a year to the U.S. deficit.
Yeah. Okay, so you think it's well past that point of being concerned about that?
Pretty much.
Okay, I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that. Thanks for listening, and keep up the good work.
One
if you can.
question,
Take care.
Scott, before you go, you still there?
Yes. Sorry, Jeff.
Are churches taxed up there in Canada?
No.
They're not. I didn't know. I was just curious. Thanks.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not like a big expert, but I know they're not taxed, just like nonprofits.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thank
All
you.
right, take care.
Thanks for calling.
Bye.
Bye. But not the nonprofits.
No.
Which is an
The
excellent show.
ROPHETS.
Right. Going to mention one more time, and then one more time at the end of the show, that we are not going to El Arroyo today. We are instead going to the Waterloo Ice House at 1106 West 38th Street. Meet us there at around 6 if you would like to meet us, and that is not a call to action. Sorry.
We're not asking you to. We're telling you can.
Yes.
Sadly, I will not be joining you guys there today at Waterloo Ice House. Nice place, though it is. And we have this huge turnout today in the studio audience.
That's right.
I mean, this is about as big as I've ever seen it. And I bet a bunch of these people are going. Sorry, folks, I got other plans after the show.
Charles in Kennebunkport, Maine.
How are you doing, guys?
Fine, how are you?
Charles, hi.
Wow, I'm glad to get through finally, because I've had a question for a week or so. Just very, very briefly, I've watched a lot of the shows for the last month or so, and by way of commendation, I've missed a lot of sleep. There's a lot of interesting stuff on here, and I really appreciate it. The question that I have is the one thing about the show that surprises me, literally the only thing that I wouldn't have predicted seeing on here, is that virtually every person who identifies themselves as an atheist claims some, virtually miraculous, rational or logical conversion to atheism, or what I like to refer to as the truth. How often do you guys, in your experience, run into people who have never had a theistic view, who never believed it right from the jump?
This guy right here.
I'm
Russell
one.
right here. And how many? Put those hands back up.
Yeah,
In our studio
okay.
audience.
We got like 20 people out there.
7, 8, 9, 11, 13, yeah, about roughly
I'd say
20. About 6 of them said
25 to 35%.
Wow.
I'm saying, but I mean those are the people who are attending our show, so that's not kind of a
not a scientific sample.
Not a good
not
sample.
a cross section of the universe and/or the population, I'm sure.
Yeah,
but
my
it's just, that is
experience.
the argument that I get, because they ask, "Well, how do you know you're an atheist?" And I will tell them the story because I remember the day, the hour, the time, where I was exactly, and and my
Wait, so
reaction
you
at that
actually
point-
had a road to Damascus type deconversion? Because actually, I think
conversion of
that's
of
pretty uncommon.
Great coffee on the road to Austin. Yeah, I mean it's just absolutely it. And I was very young. Of course, I was always very aware. I was riding in the back of the car, and my father, who was a very intelligent man, was explaining Catholicism. And at 7 years old, I basically said, "Do you really believe that?" And he said, "Well, of course I do." "Well, why? Why would you believe that?" And he said, "Look around you. How could everything else get here?" And I was stunned into silence. And he said, "Do you understand the question?" And I said, "Of course I understand it. Do you understand you didn't answer me? That there was no answer." Now it's
That doesn't
true
sound
that
like a
I was on a
7-year-old
little
kid to me,
different
but-
path than most people, but there was never an answer there that made it any different than any other story, and I've never run into many people that have felt that same way at that age.
Well, good for you.
Yeah, if you're interested, the blog Pharyngula by PZ Myers on freethoughtblogs.com
I've seen it, yeah.
does a regular series where he has guest posts called Why I'm an Atheist, and people share their stories, and it's incredibly diverse, and frankly I kind of skip those posts because I've heard lots and lots of stories directly. But but people have all kinds of experiences becoming an atheist. I mean, there's people like me who were raised atheist and then at least sort of explored the concept of whether there was a God in various different ways, but then came back and went with my original point of view. I think Matt says that he didn't have a sudden deconversion. He just sort of gradually, he tried to bolster his faith by studying the religion, and then gradually just couldn't support it anymore, and so didn't have this one epiphany. And Jeff, what about you?
It's not surprising because the bottom line is that the first prerequisite is an extreme credulity.
Right.
Anyway, the second question, and it borders on the political, is that I also get the argument, why are atheists crawling out of the woodwork lately? An example would be this video, I'll give one example, concrete. A video blogger who characterized herself as a video journalist, laughingly, claims that, atheists have come out of the woodwork since Richard Dawkins said that there was no God. And I tried to explain to her, because she had contacted me via a scientific paper, that, I would expect somebody who calls himself a journalist to have at least asked the question. No atheist I know was in any way moved by that, because, quite frankly, he was just restating a position which we, by definition, already agree. The bottom line is that we're faced with a situation in the world today where the number one problem in America, I think, is education. And we have our politicians who are, in order to gain votes, grasping and cleaving to the most ridiculous irrationalities in order to fit in with, the voters, number one. And number two, not only are they not interested in fixing the problem, but they're doing everything they possibly can to undermine the people who might actually be able to solve some of the problems we have, the problems that are technical and whatnot. And if people will just basically go back to their, wherever they want to do. It doesn't have to be a church. It could be a field. It can be any place except for the State House, the courthouse, the Congress, or a school of all places. And are you getting that argument? I mean, how do you respond to these arguments where people seem to think that atheism is now a fad or a fashion for reasons that they don't seem to understand, like so many other things? Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yeah, I would have responded to that journalist by saying, no, there were atheists before Richard Dawkins, so...
No kidding.
So, duh.
I would also say 9/11 was a big part of it, not so much because it made people atheists, but because it made a lot of people go crazy religious and start trying to suppress atheists.
And it made a few atheists more vocal, and I think a few vocal atheists have had an effect in our society of getting the idea out there that it's in fact a reasonable and honorable position to hold, and as people see that, the folks who would have been inclined to either be skeptical and they didn't think they could because of peer pressure, or who already didn't believe but were not being vocal because they thought that the peer pressure was too great, are responding to more higher prevalence of open atheism in society and coming out. So I think those factors are real. I don't think everybody is either born one or has their own personal magical experience. I think some of them figure it out later. I'm one of them. I wasn't an atheist until my early 20s, there are a lot of different factors, and one of them I think definitely is the growing movement that springs from a few well-spoken atheists getting public attention.
Well, information and the truth are dangerous in that way, really. They can be very persuasive if people listen. Listen, guys, thank you very much. There's no subject on, in this paradigm or genre that lends itself to brevity, but I do appreciate the time. I really do. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks for calling.
You're welcome.
So,
let's see. Jesse in Asheville, North Carolina.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi. I just wanted to comment out on the previous caller that was talking about the annoying guy that's talking about aliens and all that stuff.
Conspiracy theories. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, why not use the guy for? He's just one guy, unless he's overly annoying, I guess. But use the guy for practice, I guess, in debating him,
I'm sure some of them do, but I really doubt that everybody who shows up to their social meetings is going there with the desire to be accosted by this kind of nonsense.
Yeah, and speaking for myself, when I discovered the Atheist Community of Austin and started going there, to me, the big appeal was the relief in not having to constantly guard myself or constantly be coming up against people that believed a bunch of crazy shit. And to have somebody in the midst of the group spouting crazy shit sort of defeats the purpose. But anyway, we can't really speak to this issue. Hopefully the guy that called has now heard your advice, and if he thinks he can do something with that, then I'm sure he will.
Yeah, it's an idea.
Yeah, I just figured it might be like an opportunity, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, could be.
If they want.
All right, thanks.
All right.
Thanks for calling, Jesse.
Bye. What do you think?
Huh? Up to you, man.
Demetrius in Kansas.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
Is this Demetrius?
Yeah, it is.
Hi.
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 Thanks for calling. What's your question?
I'm Christian, and I think God's real, but if he is, and y'all don't think God's real.
Uh-huh.
Like, who made the earth? God. Who made us? God.
You know
Demetrius?
Huh?
How do you know that a God did it? You know, scientifically, there's no evidence that it was made by any kind of guy.
It had to be.
Says
It
who?
didn't just pop out of nowhere.
Well, the evidence is, in fact, that it did.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to go with what the evidence indicates, or just believe that there's some invisible guy you've never seen who did it just because somebody told you so?
The evidence is in the Bible.
Yeah, no, it's a book, man. I mean, you could read any book. Books can say anything that whoever wrote them wanted to say. It doesn't make it true.
It's in the Bible. Yeah, it's in the Bible. He made us. He died for us.
But the question is, so what? I mean, I can show you in Lord of the Rings, you know, Frodo got his finger bitten off in order to return the evil ring to the volcano it was made in. But that didn't actually happen. It's just written in a book. So what?
Yeah, but he does good things. He does bad things. That's what he does.
No. The book says that there is a God and that he does good things. Is that what you mean? God does good things and bad things?
Frodo.
Oh, Frodo does good things and bad things. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
Jesus beat up those people in the marketplace, remember? Remember that story? Did you read the part in the Bible about Jesus making his own whip so that he could go and beat those people up?
Yeah, but he's still a good guy. He helps us. He helps us get through things.
Demetrius, the call screeners think you're just pulling our leg, I have to mention. They don't think you're for real.
I am for real.
Okay.
I think he's for real. I think he's a kid.
You?
Yeah.
Okay.
Look,
I'll let
I mean,
you finish.
You have decided for whatever reason that you're going to believe what that book says, even though there's no particular, evidence outside of that book that the book is true. And that's a real problem, because that means you've closed your mind off to all other possibilities. I would advise you to, relax your grip on believing that that book is absolutely true and look around at other possibilities before you make that call.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks
All
for
right.
calling.
See ya. Okay. Pranab in Lubbock, Texas. Did I pronounce that right?
How are you doing?
Hi.
How do you say your name?
Yes, sir.
How do you say your name, sir?
It's Pranav.
Pranav.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
I'm basically from India, and I've been watching your show for last 1 month, and I really enjoy it. I think we should have more shows in India like yours. So I'm planning, if I go back, I'll start something like this.
I
To
understand.
raise awareness.
There is a very strong skeptical organization in India. I keep seeing videos of their public demonstrations and stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I have no idea.
Yeah,
So-
they go around and reproduce the miracles of holy men, and
Yes,
they
just
show
like
how they
James
did
Randi.
it.
Yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah.
He's from Kerala. It's like the southeast region of India. I'm from North India. It's like Himalayan mountains, that region. Yeah, I know that guy.
Cool.
So I was calling in to shed more light on what is Hinduism. I'm a Hindu, but I'm still an atheist. And there are, I mean, you already know about Buddhism and Jainism. These two religions are also considered as atheist religion in Indian culture. And there is one more sect of Indian religion that was Sarvaka, Scarvaka, which died a long time ago, like in 1200 BC. And most of their thought, most of their view on life was was the one that you guys talk about materialism. They talk about that whatever we do, our actions define how we're gonna live in life. There are no gods. There is no supernatural power. Yeah, and many people in West have misconception about Hinduism because it's very complicated. Even lots of Indian people don't know what actually is Hinduism. So,
correct a misconception I have. Doesn't Hinduism explicitly have like a bunch of gods? Isn't it a pantheistic religion? Like there's the guy with the arms and the elephant head guy and stuff.
Yes, in modern days you can say that's what Hinduism is. But if you go back in time and see how it originated, you have to see what a Hindu means. A Hindu was a name given to the people who lived across the river Indus, which is Sindh in Sanskrit. So the people in Western countries, people from Arab countries, they used to say the people who live across the river Sindh, which is Indus River, are Hindu. So they were not people defined by religion. They were people defined by the geography of that region.
So Hinduism is really more of a regional culture, sort of like some Jews say, you know, I'm culturally Jewish, but don't believe in the God stuff.
Exactly.
Okay.
The origin of Hinduism as a religion, it started in 18th century. Started when it started with the invasion of India by Muslims. And after that, British came and they ruled for 200 years. So the people they got united under the umbrella of Hinduism. Hinduism is basically people who are not following Abrahamic religion. So they got together to stop the forced conversion that were going on that time. And in 19th century, it spread as a religion. But basically what it is Hinduism doesn't have one prophet. It doesn't have one single doctrine. It consists of various small sect of people who have different beliefs. Like it has, even Buddhism and Jainism comes in under it. And there are so many different branches under Hinduism, and there are valid branches which take into consideration the atheistic view of life too. So there are different misconceptions right now, even in India too, among people what actually Hinduism is.
Wow, that's really interesting. We don't know a lot about that.
Yeah, I know that. So,
and that's largely because we have not needed to know, because Hinduism is not a big problem. It's not causing big problems in the United States right now.
Hinduism and lots of Indian origin religions, they don't force their religion on somebody else.
Would you say that there is any? We're running out of time, so I think I'm going to have to actually put you on hold and talk to you after the break if you want. But
sure.
Thanks everybody. That's our show. Thanks Jeff. That's our crew, and meet us at the Waterloo Ice House on 38th Street if you would like to attend the post-show dinner. And we'll see you next week.